Hey, it looks like we're back again, and I'm here with my friend Kevin Hill again.
Hello.
Which means we're doing another Toy Trains 101 video. You may recall we did one of these back in December. That was Kevin talking about how to get Grandpa's old American Flyer train up and running for Christmas around the Christmas tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this time it's summer. It's really hot today.
Very hot.
So you might hear a fan in the background at times. I'm making no apologies for that, because we have to stay cool or else we will melt.
And there won't be any more Toy Train 101 videos.
Right? If we melt, there won't be any more. So anyway, you have something else that you wanted to share. What'd you bring?
So today we're going to be talking about the conversion of link coupler equipped equipment to the knuckle coupler. Pre-1952, American Flyer used what was called a link coupler, which is just that. It's a little plastic link that grasps a pin on the opposite car and they couple that way. Well, those couplers suck. So if you buy a train set and it's got link couplers, you're going to want to change those out immediately. Or if you're at a train show and you already have some knuckle coupler equipped cars and you want the cars that you buy at the show to be compatible with your knuckle coupler stuff, you're going to need to convert those.
Okay.
Because they did make some cool stuff before 1952 that only came with the link couplers. So you're going to want to be able to convert those over.
Okay, so this is switching out couplers on American Flyer then.
Yep.
Okay, well, shall we head over to the workbench?
Let's do that.
Let's go.
So we're here at the workbench now. We're going to take a look at some different types of couplers that Gilbert used over the course of their existence. The first being the link coupler, then the more conventional knuckle coupler, and then finally the Pike Master coupler that came out around the end of American Flyer's existence. So the first coupler that Gilbert used on their American Flyer trains was the link coupler. This was used from the pre-war years on their O-gauge equipment into the post-war years up until 1952 on the S-gauge equipment. And as you can see, it consists of, as the name implies, a link. This particular one has a weight on it. There are different variations of these. Some have weights and some do not, depending on what period they were made in. On this side is a pin, which this link would grab on the next car, would grab that pin, and so on. Unfortunately, these couplers are very unreliable, and if you run over rough track or if the train's doing any kind of bouncing, they come uncoupled, and then if you're not paying attention, your train comes around and hits the rear of the train that it dumped off. So we like to change these out to knuckles. In 1952, American Flyer introduced a more realistic knuckle coupler, and they used this up until 1960. This helped them better compete with Lionel, who was already using knuckle couplers at the time. And these are a much more reliable coupler, far superior to the link coupler. And the final style of coupler that American Flyer used was introduced in 1960 when American Flyer was kind of trying to hang on, if you will. They were going under at that point. They were trying to cut costs. And it's called the Pike Master coupler, and you can see it doesn't have any moving parts. It just has a split in the plastic which allows the coupler to open and close, which very cheaply made. You can see the trucks are also plastic. Everything, this very cheaply made car. But
looks like they were going downhill.
Yeah, but these Pike Master couplers are compatible with the Gilbert knuckle couplers. So if you have any cars that are equipped with Pike Masters, you don't have to worry about it. They're going to work with your stuff. So the tools we're going to need to do this job, first and foremost, are a hammer.
Hammers are good.
This is probably going to be one of the only model railroad jobs that you're ever going to do that's going to require a hammer.
I could think of a few.
And I can tell you right now, just from somebody that's never seen this done before, this is going to be one of the most violent model railroad jobs you've ever seen. Next, you're going to need a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, something just you can use to pry with, and a pair of needle nose pliers. And then over here I have my number 520 Knuckle Coupler conversion kit. There was a 5-digit version of this, and they've used several different stock numbers over the course of their existence. So the best way to get these is just to go on eBay and search for American Flyer Knuckle Coupler kit, and you'll see them there. They also make reproductions of these now, but I like to get the original ones. They're only like a couple bucks more, so might as well keep it original. Depending on what your work surface is made out of, you're going to want to have a piece of wood like this here. Because as I said before, this is a very violent kind of a job that we're going to do here, so you could destroy your table. And you can see we've drilled a 5/16 inch hole here in the wood, and the reason we did that is because this little tool right here will fit right in that hole, and it makes it a lot easier to do the job, and you'll see why here in a minute.
Hold on, where'd that tool come from?
Oh, this is part of the kit.
Oh, okay, that comes
we
with
didn't
the
open the kit yet. This is one that I brought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, it looks like an empty shell casing or something.
Yeah, some of them look a lot more like empty shell casings because they're made out of copper. This one's one of the good ones. It's made out of steel. If you ever get a kit that has one of the steel ones in there, you're going to want to keep that. So now we're going to open our kit here.
Oh, we can see which kind of metal thing it has in it.
Yeah.
What all comes in the kit? Just the knuckles, or what?
The knuckle, the little tube tool, and 2 split rivets.
Split rivets.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll just dump it out right here. There's our 2 rivets. See, this one has a copper one. So I'm glad I brought my other with me here.
You're glad you brought your tool, huh?
Yeah. Feels like there's something right there.
Maybe it has money in it.
This one has an extra rivet that we don't need, but...
Someone at the factory back in 1940 or 1950 didn't know how to count too well.
Yeah. So this little copper tool right here, you can take this and use it as a scrap load in your car. And if you get one of these steel ones, you're going to want to save that and use that. If you get stuck with the copper one, you can make it work, but you got to be careful because they like to smash down really easily when you're doing the job. Okay, so we're going to start by sticking our tube in this little hole that we drilled here. You don't have to drill a hole, but it does make the job a lot easier. Then you're going to take your car, and on the link coupler equipped cars, they all have these tin plate trucks. That's one of the ways you can tell if a car came from the factory with link couplers, because it would have these tin plate trucks. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 thumbs and just kind of separate it like that. A little more. And then you're going to pop the wheels out on that first set there. Usually I take both sets out just because they'll fall out anyway when you're doing the job. Okay, then on this link coupler you're going to see that there's this rivet pin that runs through here. And we're going to take the head of that pin and put it in the hole in our tube here. Just like so.
I have a dumb question.
Okay.
If you hadn't taken the piece of wood and put your 5/16 inch hole and then drop that little tool in there, would you just be trying to balance that thing on the table?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, yeah.
That sounds almost dangerous.
Yeah.
Like you could really hurt yourself doing that.
Well, the hammer does say wear safety goggles.
Well, you're wearing glasses, so
Yeah.
instead of... See, if you're wearing glasses, you're smart enough to know that you don't need the safety goggles.
Yep. So, now for the violent part.
Uh-oh.
And we're actually going to beat this pin into the tube. Now, you want to be careful when you're doing this because some of these cars do have little steps that are on here, and I've broken them off before.
What, like a stirrup thing?
Yeah, it's a
on the
little
end?
stirrup.
Yeah.
And I've broken them off before. Sometimes on rarer pieces of equipment, I'll use something with a smaller head on it, like a ball peen hammer, that you're less likely to break those off with. But this is not. This is a very common car, so we're just going to use this claw hammer here because it is a little heavier, and they the heavier hammers tend to work better to get those rivets out. And then the other thing is, in the process of doing this, you may break this link off while you're hitting it. That's fine.
Well, it's junk anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole purpose, is to get rid of it.
Yeah. So without further ado, we're going to start pounding this pin out here, and we'll see what happens. Some of them are easier than others.
I bet there's someone out there who's had to do this enough that they've created some kind of a jig or a...
Oh, I bet there is.
Right? Somewhere out there, probably. I'm trying to imagine you doing this while also simultaneously having to balance that cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
That must be impossible.
And like I said, some of them are more difficult than others.
Yeah, it just so happens the one you brought is difficult.
This is one of those difficult ones, because sometimes you get them the first 2 taps and they're just like out. So I actually took the body off of the car just to, so we don't damage that any further.
Any further.
Yeah.
Operative words. What I'm thinking is what they should have done is had something that was better in the first place.
Yeah.
Do you know what would work, though? Is if you had something kind of like a nail or a finish nail or something like that had a cup on the end that you could fit over that thing.
Yep.
You know, like a punch.
Yeah.
That would be ideal. Well, there's a question for people watching, because I'm sure somebody out there watching probably has a better way of doing this or knows of a better way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if anybody out there has invented other tools that they use to do this.
Yeah, we'll buy one. I'll buy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is moving, but ever so slightly. Oh, there it goes.
It went out. It's a miracle. So it seemed like it just suddenly went really fast.
That's how they go. You'll sit there and pound on them, and then it'll just go.
Huh.
So here's our old link. And we're going to take one of the provided knuckle couplers that came with the kit. And you'll see the old shank here. And there's a slot in this knuckle coupler. It'll just fit over that shank.
And let me guess, then you have to pound that in, or?
Nope.
Oh, it just fits on?
Yeah, it just fits into the little shank there. And then what I will do is use just this little flathead just to press it down and make sure that our hole is lined up here, because you can see the slot there's a slot in the knuckle here where that hole needs to be. Then we're going to take one of these split rivets that was also provided in the kit and put it through the hole in the coupler shank here and just kind of press it in. You're going to have to sometimes really press on it to get it in there.
Something else that someone probably made a tool for, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then sometimes this is where I use the needle nose pliers. I'll just grab the shank with one side of the pliers and the head with the other and press it. And just press it in like that.
So you're just pressing the head in?
Yep. And then, because it's a split rivet, then you take the 2 ends of the rivet and just kind of bend them over.
Yeah, it's like a Bradley. Remember those things when you were a kid?
Yep. And then that's it.
That's it?
Yep.
That was easy. Well, I mean, except for the whole
and then
hammering part.
Obviously, then you put the wheels back in the truck. And then pinch the truck back together, and that's all there is to it.
Now you have a knuckle coupler.
Yep.
But you still have a link on the other side. And I just thought of an idea. And you can tell me if you've ever done this before. What if you wanted a transition car? What if you only had, one of these kits? You could leave your link on one side and just pull everything behind that as a link, couldn't you?
Mm-hmm. You could do that. Actually, I have on my layout one train set that is link coupler equipped, and that's just because it's a super rare set. And
you don't want to mess with it.
You want to leave it original, so.
So the good news is you got one done.
We got one done.
The bad news is you got to do the other.
Yeah.
do the other one now. But I was thinking though, as I was watching you struggle and pound the crap out of that last one, what I'm thinking is that car body, whatever you call that piece you're holding, looks really old and really corroded and really crappy.
I haven't done anything to this car yet. This was one of the ones that came with some of that stuff I bought at the last show you and I went to.
Do you know what I'm getting at though?
Yeah.
Is that thing probably has corrosion and junk on it because I noticed once you got it past a certain point, it just fell right out.
Yep, and that's what some of these cars do right out of the boat. When you first start tapping on them, they'll just drop right out. Like I said, some are harder than others, and as luck would have it, we got one of the hard ones today.
I bet you though, if that car was new out of the box in 1950 whatever, it would have just probably tapped right out. Because it would have been new and it wouldn't have had that seal of corrosion or whatever crap was holding it together.
Yep. So.
All right. Well,
so now we'll do the other end of the car and see what happens, and hopefully we won't put a hole through your table here.
Yeah, more fun.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That one was a little easier. So what I forgot to mention, when you put this coupler on the car, you want the weight on the coupler facing downwards so that your automatic uncoupler tracks and things like that can grab it and open the coupler.
I have a dumb question.
And it wouldn't couple very good like this either.
Yeah. I have a dumb question though. Does that little kit come with instructions? I mean, I can see there's some writing on the side.
It does, but they're not very... I mean, I guess they are explanatory, but for somebody like me that's a visual learner, you want to see it done. And because when you read that, you're like, wow, I'm going to do what? I'm going to hit this with a hammer? I'm like, yeah, you are. So you ready here?
Yeah, why don't you show us again, because I'm not sure the camera was able to see before exactly what you were doing.
All right.
I went handheld on this one. We can take a closer look at it.
So yeah, we're just going to slide this coupler under the shank here. Just like that. Then I'm going to take this screwdriver, press it down. And we're going to take this rivet, this split rivet, put it in there. Like that. And sometimes this is easier with a flathead screwdriver. Just come in here, kind of bend them like that, and it's ready to go. Now that thing's not going anywhere. And then just put your wheels back. And squeeze. And that's all there is to it. Alright, so now we're going to start putting the car back together. Just got to put the body back on here. This particular car was missing its little rivets that hold the body on. So I'll replace those eventually. I didn't know it was missing them. But normally you would put this body on like so. And then you would tap the rivets back into their little holes. But since this car is missing them, we obviously won't do that part.
Will it snap together though?
Yeah. Yeah, see, there it is. So it'll stay together like this, but the rivets go through the holes on the four corners of the car.
That just makes sure it stays together, kind of.
Yep. So now the last thing we have to do is adjust the coupler height. Now, unlike modern equipment, we don't have a height gauge for this. So the easiest way to do it is just have another car that came equipped with knuckle couplers, and you can just use that as your gauge. So we have our car here that we're using as a gauge, and you can see that it is off slightly.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little too low or something, huh?
Yeah, and remember that this is toy train, so they don't have to be perfect,
right,
to work. But
you mean you're not going to take a spike off?
No.
Okay.
Especially since I did the work.
You have to give that epic model status.
Yeah.
Little throwback to the old days, right?
Yeah.
So how do you fix that?
So you just are going to grab it and bend it.
Oh, those things are really strong, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you can just bend it until it's the right height?
Yeah.
Or until it's close enough,
Until
right?
it's close enough.
Yeah. Now, I have another dumb question. I say they're dumb questions, and they probably aren't, but I'm thinking of, maybe somebody watching might have this question, which is, you're just using some random car that came with knuckle couplers. Are those all pretty standard? I mean, they're pretty close?
They're all pretty close. I
Okay.
mean, it's not an exact science. It's not like HO here.
Right. Plus, they're so big and chunky. I mean, I would
Yeah.
imagine those probably won't come on
So
top
now-
anyway. Oh, look at that.
We got it. And it's still a little off, but it's hard for me to be able to fix it from the angle that I'm at. But for
Yeah.
our purposes, it's good enough.
We're doing this standing up in front of the workbench, so you can imagine. Plus, it's hot today, so yeah, this is really pleasant. I'm glad your deodorant works.
Yeah, me too. If the car wants to make it easy on you, it'll make it easy on you. If it wants to make it hard on you, it'll make it hard on you. Under normal circumstances, if it got a little difficult like that, I would switch to a smaller hammer. But we didn't have that option today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't bring...
Could use a jeweler's hammer.
Yeah.
They have those little heads like
Yep.
so. Yeah.
Yep, I have a couple of those and things like that. I didn't think to bring them, but... Oh well, what can you do?
It happens.
Obviously, if you're working with a rare piece of equipment, either don't change the knuckle out, or don't change the coupler out, or be very cautious and use the smaller hammers, and you can use things to kind of pad around so that you don't hit the car.
Yeah, you want to be really careful, I would imagine, especially if you have collector's items.
Yeah.
Or better yet, if they're collector's items, just leave it however it came,
Yeah,
right? 'Cause
exactly.
aren't
And
they worth more stock?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
as I mentioned, I have a few pieces of equipment that are like that. But obviously with just run-of-the-mill equipment, you can kind of beat the heck out of them, and it's not going to really damage anything. Obviously, you don't want to be, cracking the bodies or anything. That's why I took the body off. But on most of these things, the frames are die-cast, so there's not a whole lot you can do to damage that. So.
Oh, I could.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
I could.
within reason.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. And hey, we'll talk to you next time, I guess.
Yep. We'll talk to you later. So, without further ado, we're going to start beating this thing off. I didn't mean for that to come out that way, but we're going to have to cut a lot of this shit out here.
I'm sure.
'Cause